And welcome, friends, to this, the Thursday edition of the Grace Hour. We're broadcasting live here from our studios, which are located at the home of the Greater Grace World Outreach in Baltimore, Maryland. And I want to welcome you to this Thursday edition of our podcast today in this month of August. Great to have you with us. Quick reminder to those of you that are tuning in and listening today, the comment section is available to those of you listening and watching. Share your thoughts with us. I'd love to hear what you have to say about our theme and our subject matter on the broadcast today. If you have questions, pose the questions there as well. This week, throughout the Grace Hour, talking about the parables in the New Testament, the parables of Jesus. Today, we'll focus on one of those parables found in Matthew's Gospel, the 18th chapter, and it's the unforgiving servant. My name is Pastor John Love. Joining us in the studio today, Pastor Tom Schaller will be your hosts, and we invite you again to participate in the broadcast, share your comments with us as the program progresses today. And Pastor Schaller, we can talk about the nature of having an unforgiving spirit, because the parable is about the unforgiving servant, but we can also talk about the importance of forgiveness. I think that's what really Jesus was teaching his disciples and teaching all believers, the power of forgiveness, the value of forgiveness, how much forgiveness blesses, obviously, those who we give it to, but blesses us as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I wonder, could you give like a list of things that commonly happen to people that come under that category of forgiveness? Like, what are the things that people need to learn when you get hurt or offended or you need to forgive? You could ignore it. You can put it aside. You may not learn about forgiveness. But here Peter said, then came Peter to him, said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Question. How often? And then he said 7 times? Question mark. So how often shall my brother? So who is that?
It could be an actual brother, someone in the family, or a brother in Christ, someone in the church, a close friend, someone we're married to. There's so many different people that this could apply to, but it's all about relationships. And if there isn't any forgiveness in those relationships, well, you can just imagine where those relationships are going to end up.
What are some examples? What are some things that we need to take note of?
Well, let's say someone reacts in the flesh, loses their temper, and they lash out with unkind words, harsh words, painful, hurtful words. Those hurt when you get them, when you're the recipient, and yet there should be in our hearts this willingness to say, you know what? I mean, I just look at it like this. I mean, I can have an initial reaction to someone who would hurt me or wound me or offend me, but if our hearts and minds are focused on what God did for us rather than what people do to us,
okay,
we're gonna have this great capacity. We're gonna have a fountain, almost like a well that springs up, that can forgive, like Jesus said. Peter, I think the Old Testament taught that if someone sinned against you, you would forgive them 3 times. So Peter doubles it and throws one in for good measure. Who knows? Maybe he's trying to impress Jesus. How about this, Lord? What if I forgive my brother? And almost like maybe he's expecting Jesus to say, you would do that, Peter? You would forgive someone 7 times? But boy, was Peter shocked and surprised when Jesus said no.
No, he does say, how often shall my brother sin against me? So let's talk about repetitive, offenses. Like how often, like maybe Peter he did have a brother, right?
Yeah.
Andrew, right? Yeah. And there was James and John. They were brothers. Andrew mistreated Peter once. twice, 3 times, 4 times. Can you talk about that a little bit? Somebody repeatedly hurting you or offending you, repeatedly.
Yeah.
And then what are they? Like, I still haven't gotten that answer yet. Well, you said words.
Yeah.
That was one.
Yeah, words can do it. Maybe telling something other than the truth, maybe lying, maybe becoming deceitful in some way, shape, or form, maybe being unfaithful and maybe not keeping your promise or keeping your vow, whatever. There's so many different ways in which we can sin against each other and wound each other. And boy, when you mention that about, well, how many times, there's something in us that says, no, wait a minute, I have to draw a line in the sand.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
If I keep extending this forgiveness for you, it's pretty clear to me that you're just going to take advantage of it. And there's never going to be any real change or conversion in your heart. You're never going to see the light. So I have to bring this forgiveness to an end so that you will somehow learn your lesson. But the question is, does that work?
Yeah.
Or do we just lose a friend?
Okay. Like some categories, I'm thinking of like money. People, like, they're dishonest and they hurt you that way. I mean, large amounts of money. I've heard stories in a divorce case, somebody taking your house or your money or lying about you. Even something simple like your family agrees they're going to pick you up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They know there's a no-show, but they do it again and again, like this is a habit. Like, they're not respecting me. They are not faithful to their end of the bargain. This is not good. How many times, Peter is saying, how many times should I forgive, right?
Yes.
And I love what your answer was, that regarding how my starting point must be not with them, but with me and God. Could you talk about that for more?
Yeah, I mean, let's just put the cat on the table. We are going to be offended. We are going to be hurt. We are going to be wounded.
Okay.
That's a given.
That's
a good place to start, because this is going to happen. If you're a believer, you're going to be wounded. I think when Jesus told his disciples, you're going to be offended. When he said that to them, you know what they said? They said, increase our faith. I don't know that they ever said that to him about anything else in life.
Yeah.
But when he said that, they said, you know what? That's going to take a boatload of faith.
Okay.
I don't think I have that kind of forgiveness. I don't think I can tolerate somebody repeatedly offending me, hurting me, wounded me. I've just got to cut those people off and get them out of my life. Mm-hmm. But if you're in a relationship, a friendship with someone, or if you're in a marriage, or you have children, I mean, you might say, I'm going to cut them up, but you can't do that.
Yeah.
These are relationships that are too important and too valuable to forfeit because you cannot find forgiveness in your hearts for them.
Wow. Okay. Now, if, and we all know, we've seen in legal cases, in a tragic thing like a murder, and somebody being charged in a crime happened. They go to court, and the guilty person is found guilty, and then the victim family has an opportunity to say something, and they can say something very hateful to the guilty person, the crime that was committed, and you've seen that kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And they're like cursing the person and hoping they go to hell, and on it goes. So can you comment on that for a minute?
Yeah, you do see that a lot. And the question that's in my heart is, is that enough for you? Are you going to be satisfied when you see these people punished again and again and again? Or does mercy find a way of triumphing over judgment?
Uh-huh.
Is mercy a better way to live than seeking justice?
Mm-hmm.
Because there might not ever be enough justice for you.
Okay.
There just might not be enough.
Yeah. Right.
Even if they get what they deserve and more than that. Because we've heard people in the courtroom when these people are sentenced to life in prison. And those that are seeking that kind of justice sometimes say to the person who committed these crimes, it's not enough.
Yeah.
I wish you would die 100 times over.
Yeah,
and that might not be enough.
Right.
So
take your body and grind it through a meat grinder and curse you and go to hell and on and on. Okay, that's one way to live. But the other way is, like what you said, the starting point is, I have been forgiven by God of all my sins, not some of them, but all of my sins. And therefore, in this parable, in Matthew 18, it's a well-known parable, and we understand that because I have been forgiven so much, then I need to be careful with this. Now, there will be arguments on the other side of it, and that is like you're empowering the victimizer by forgiving him and letting him go free. There was a racial murder down in, I don't know, South Carolina. I remember some years ago, a small group of black folks who were doing a Bible study, and a young man came in and killed all of them. And then they went, the few that survived, or however the other church members went to the criminal and said, "We forgive you." And then the press is saying, well, you're empowering, racism, or you're empowering, the criminal. And what would you say about that? I mean, this isn't about empowering anybody. It's about that from my heart, if I have been forgiven and I am told by God, that is, I have been forgiven, so I must forgive others. And I'm doing it for that reason. Yeah. It glorifies God.
Yeah. It releases the person who committed the offense, and even perhaps more than that, it releases you. Because when we don't give out the forgiveness that we've so freely received from God, we become a prisoner, so to speak, of an unforgiving spirit. Because it's important to note, too, that Christ wasn't speaking here about salvation, but rather the results of salvation. The results of salvation are, I can forgive because I have been forgiven. Now, if you can only focus on the offense, it may be very, very difficult for you to find forgiveness. But if you focus on what was done for you.
Yes.
And I think it's summed up by the Apostle Paul in Ephesians 4:32, when he said, be kind, tenderhearted, forgiving one another the same way that God has forgiven you. Whoever it is that I have to extend forgiveness toward, they have not needed forgiveness as much as I have.
Oh.
I have needed forgiveness from God much more than they need forgiveness from me, because I have sinned much against God and have been forgiven much.
Yeah.
And that's the only way it works. It's almost like when you receive mercy, you become a channel of mercy. When you receive grace, you become a channel of grace. When you receive forgiveness, you become a channel of forgiveness. And I think that the whole parable, Pastor Schaller, is less about, imagine someone reading this parable and thinking, oh, well, this is all about Jesus teaching about mismanagement of money. That has nothing to do with it. This is about misunderstanding the Father's heart, because the man who was forgiven of his great debt, the first thing he did was that he went out and found someone who owed him such a small amount, grabbed him by the throat, and said, "You're going to pay me everything you owe me, and if not, I'm going to throw you and your whole family into prison." I don't believe that he walked out of the master's presence understanding what the master really said to him. The master said, "You're forgiven." But he said, if you're patient, if you give me enough time, I'll pay you what I owe you. But the master said, "I forgive you." I don't think a lot of believers really understand how much they've been forgiven.
Okay.
I think that you can hear it, but not believe it, and then live your life, trying to extract justice from other people because, you didn't.
Actually, I should go to hell.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it means.
Yes.
I should go to hell.
Yes.
And I should go to hell like right away, like immediately for the sins that I've committed. But that is not going to happen. So the fact that I am not going to hell and that I've been forgiven of all my sins is the starting point for my mental orientation to this.
Yeah.
And I think you have read, opinions from people. And I think people, many times they don't know what they're talking about. They don't have this as a starting point.
Right.
They don't realize that I have been forgiven by God. And this is where, forgiveness really comes from.
Yeah. And if you don't think that you've really been forgiven by God, or even worse, you don't even think you need to be forgiven, well, then we're talking about self-righteousness, which is the greatest of all sins, because you believe, you actually go through life and think you don't need grace. Mm-hmm. You don't need mercy. You don't need forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Other people might need it, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
That's the worst possible condition you could ever find yourself in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't this all about stewardship? Peter wrote and reminds us that we should, all of us who have been the recipients of this grace and mercy and forgiveness, he said that you have to now be a good steward of the manifold grace of God. It's almost like God gives us, as he lavishes his grace upon us, and then he just kind of waits to see what we'll do with it. Mm-hmm. Will you give to others what I have so freely given to you? Or are you going to withhold it? And when you withhold it, boy, that's when you frustrate the grace of God. How many marriages have been ruined, destroyed, because one partner withholds grace from the other partner? Mm-hmm. And they can even justify it and say, well, I'm not giving them grace because they don't deserve it.
Yeah, they don't deserve it.
They don't deserve it. But that flies in the face of what grace actually means. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because when we're talking about grace, we're not talking about a beautiful ballerina prancing across the stage, or saying a prayer before we eat our meals. We're talking about this love of God expressed towards sinners that are completely and utterly undeserving.
Yeah, isn't that refreshing?
Yes.
It's encouraging, refreshing, and unique. It's a very unique thing. Grace is unique, but at the same time, everybody is crying out for it, but they don't know that. But everybody is crying out for grace. They're all crying out for love. They all want to be treated in a sense of like, love me, appreciate me, forgive me, give me a gift. I'll take it. I'll take whatever you got. Like, love me, care for me. The human race is crying out for grace, and yet, to be honest, in the Christian world, we need to learn and practice that, because it's at the very heart of our message.
Yes,
it's that we need to give grace to each other and grace to people, and not be judging them.
Yeah.
But we can be very judgmental. You want to say something about that? We can be, Peter said, how often can somebody offend me and hurt me and I forgive them? How many times? So let's put in there, like, I don't know. They miss the appointment 10 times. They steal money from me 7 times. They are gossiping about me 33 times. They're basically like a bad person, and they are hurting me. So, like, what am I going to do about it?
I would say have a mind that's focused on Calvary.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like you really have to look away from the offense and you have to look at Calvary and what was accomplished there for you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If you can't do that, then
I mean,
you're gonna miss grace.
And, like, you pity the person who's behaving like this because you're not the only one they're doing it to. They're doing it to others for sure. And if they're doing it now, they'll probably be doing it a year from now. Their life might unravel terribly without having a lot of friends and without having a meaningful relationship with somebody. Yeah. So maybe this is happening to you that you would be able to be with them, forgive them, spend some time with them, invest in them. And maybe the grace that you have will have an impact on them, and maybe they would turn to God, or they would realize what's going on and change.
Yeah. It seems to me in the Old Testament a classic illustration of someone extending that kind of grace to the undeserving was David with Mephibosheth. Here he is, David is at the zenith of his kingdom. Everything is going his way. He's put Israel back on the map militarily, spiritually. They're healthy. He's leading the nation. God is blessing him. And in the midst of it all, in 2 Samuel chapter 9, he stops and he says, wait a minute, is there anyone that I can show kindness toward for Jonathan's sake? But that's what grace does. That's what mercy does. That's what forgiveness does. It makes us think and look for others that could receive the same thing that we've received. I think that's what the motivation is behind our evangelism and soul winning. If God has been so good to me and I've found such favor in his sight, I can't keep this to myself. I have to share this with others. I want other people to know how good God is, because that goodness will lead them to repentance and lead them into a relationship with God who, well, his forgiveness is just endless. And we can't live without it.
Yeah.
We can't live without it.
Yeah. I mean, there is a temptation when you forgive somebody that, that's where it ends, but there could be forgiveness, but also counsel, follow-up counsel. The person might be good for them to be informed about what happened and that this was hurtful, and informed. There's like a lot of room for practical advices and direction with people that are, people that struggle in life and they hurt other people. But so that we're not denying that, but we are emphasizing the need for us to, process this through faith.
Yeah.
And to realize that God is wanting me to be forgiving.
Yeah. And it's safe to say, too, that we can make the decision to forgive someone, and then the forgetting part may take some time, but the initial decision to forgive them is what's all important.
Yeah.
In other words, you can forgive someone, you see them, and then it might resurrect the thought of the offense that they committed against you, but you just say, wait a minute, I have forgiven that person. Okay. It might not mean that you spend all of your time with them as you once did, but you cannot, none of us can afford to harbor an unforgiving spirit, because it's like, as someone has well said, it's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Yeah.
Who does it impact? It impacts us. And as hard as it may be for some people to find that forgiveness, it's so beneficial, because if we hold on to the unforgiving spirit, we miss that opportunity to distribute the grace that God has so freely given to us. I think it's Hebrews 12:15 says a root of bitterness can find its way into our hearts. And it just doesn't impact us. It's going to defile everybody in our own sphere of influence. That's pretty dangerous. None of us can afford to live with that bitterness in our hearts.
Yeah, so we have here the parable. Therefore, in the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought on him which owed him 10,000 talents, and I have here in my handwriting $10 million, which is an extraordinary, huge amount of money. I mean, you're not going to pay $10 million back. That's not going to happen. And that's your point about our sins being forgiven.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when he heard those words from his master, I forgive you.
Yeah.
He should have went out and celebrated.
Yeah.
He should have found the man who owed him, pennies and said, I've got the best news for you that you will ever hear in your life.
I have here $20.
Wow.
I don't know. You're forgiven 10 million, and then you cannot forgive somebody who owes you 20. Why did that happen?
I have the sneaky suspicion that he did not believe the words of his master and was bent on repaying his debt. And the best way to start to repay that debt is to find out who owes me. And then I'll collect from him. And then, you can just imagine, and this is the way a lot of people live. They think this way. The self-righteous believe that if they can do enough good things, they will be able to earn their way into God's favor, not realizing that grace comes when God decides to give it to us freely, based upon the justice that was satisfied at the cross. He can do that.
Yeah.
And he can be just, and as Paul wrote to the Romans, and he can turn around and justify anyone who will believe on him. They can be ungodly, they can be sinners, they can be rebellious, they can be...
Another way of saying this is, unless you are spiritually minded, you will not get that. You won't get it unless you are spiritually minded. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think a spiritually minded person takes a hold of the truth of the gospel message. And they recognize, look, God manifested his love when I was of no value to him. There was nothing in it for God.
Yeah.
He just wanted to display his nature and character of love. When that gets a hold of your heart, everything about your life changes. As much as we say, I hope this never happens to me. I hope someone never does this to me because I would find it very difficult to forgive them. But with a heart and mind that's focused on what was done for you at Calvary, believe it or not, you would find a capacity to forgive.
Yeah.
That's remarkable that God would do that for us. And I love the fact that he said, look, I know you can't do this on your own. So let me do for you what you could never do for yourself. And then through the Spirit of God, you're going to have a capacity to do it for others, but not without him doing it for us. In other words, imagine if God said this, I'm only going to forgive you if you can forgive others. Who would ever be forgiven?
Okay, right.
We couldn't be.
Yeah.
But he says, I'm going to forgive you. That Ephesians 4:32 principle. Forgive others, even as God has first forgiven you. In other words, God says, look, I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to create a capacity within your soul so that you can extend that same grace to others who need it. And when you find yourself saying, well, I would give them grace, Lord, but they just don't deserve it. And you could just hear God asking the question, did you?
Yeah.
Did you deserve it?
Yeah.
It's like, no, of course
Did you
not.
deserve it? Yeah, I know.
But it's so strange. It's so contrary to our natures that we would gladly, willingly receive it freely from God, but hold on to it in a very stingy way until we feel people are deserving of it.
Oh, yeah. They're deserving of it.
Yeah. Once you merit it, I'll give it to you.
What are those merits? Like I would say, one maybe that I've heard people say, I will forgive you if you'll never do it again.
Oh,
Another one is, I will forgive you if you are sincere about this. You know, if you're going to change, then I will forgive you.
there you go.
What's wrong with those?
It's all conditions. They're all conditions.
Yeah.
But imagine David saying that to Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth, you can sit at my table for the rest of your life if you can finally figure out how to get up and walk straight. All right? You can sit there as long as you're faithful, which, as we know in the story as it unfolds in 1st and 2nd Samuel, he wasn't. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He turned his back on David, and then he showed back up in the kingdom after the rebellion of Absalom. And, it comes out, and people said to David, David, this guy turned his back on you. When he had a chance to stay with you and to be loyal and faithful, he wasn't. So don't bring him back to the table. Don't let him sit in your palace again. But David said, well, when I extended that grace to him, it didn't come with any conditions. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, you can sit here as long as you're loyal.
Yeah.
It was, you will sit here for the rest of your life. That's what grace sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so amazing, right?
Now, what about, so when we say unconditional forgiveness and also repetitively, like how many times? 70 times, 7 times. And these are to people that offend us. What's the end result when you have people living like that and acting like that, that forgiveness is a real thing? Then what happens?
You can make it. You can endure.
Yeah.
In other words, some people do the math. They say 70 times 7. That's 490 times.
Yeah.
I have exceeded that mark in my marriage relationship. I have gone way beyond 490.
Okay.
And of course, Jesus meant it as an idiom of speech, which meant infinitely. But what that means is you're going to have relationships that endure. You're going to have fellowship with people that can extend, beyond the offense and beyond the wound and the hurt and the pain that they've caused you. You're going to be able to have lifelong relationships with people. It's going to be a great blessing in your life. And you're going to be, well, I don't mean to be an expert on forgiveness, but you're going to master the art of forgiveness. You're going to be like Joseph as you go through life. I mean, if anybody could have held on to a grudge and could have had an unforgiving spirit, it would have been Joseph.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Yes. It was in his heart.
Yeah.
Free, right?
Yeah. And he even, to remind himself, I think he named one of his sons, after that forgiveness that was given to him. God has made me to forget.
To make me forget.
Yeah.
And then
and the other son,
in the land of the
you've made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. Wow.
Fruitful. Okay.
That's
made
unbelievable.
Me forget, and then you made me to be fruitful.
It's like every time he called his son.
In itself,
right? It is. Yeah, he called his son.
Manasseh and Ephraim.
That's it.
What is it?
Yeah. You imagine calling your son, but every time you call him, his name means God caused me to forget. Wow. That means every meal he's reminded. Breakfast, God caused me to forget. Lunch, God caused me to forget. Dinner, God caused me to forget.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a great message.
And then he made me rejoice in light of my toil or my adversity.
Yes.
Oh.
Joseph.
Have you ever met an unforgiving person who has become bitter?
Yes.
You have? What's their name?
I can't reveal that because then I would have to ask for their forgiveness. But it's true. It's poisonous for the poor soul that harbors the unforgiving spirit, and for the person that's been alienated because they refuse to accept the forgiveness or to give others the forgiveness. That's a tough way to go through life.
When I was young, I would Yeah, up in the snowy neighborhoods of New York, up in the big, the snow belt, we would jump on the bumper of a car and ride the car in the snow, right? You
Yeah.
probably did it without the
Yes.
driver knowing you were there.
Exactly.
Yeah, what? I forget the name of that. What was that? Hopping cars or something?
Madness, I think we
So, there's a time when you hold on to something and it's for your good, and then there's a time you hold on and it's for your bad,
Yeah.
And you got to learn to give it up.
Wow.
You got to learn to forgive,
Yeah.
or that car can drag you into the spring.
Yeah.
It can drag you into like real pain.
That's right.
So give it up.
Yeah.
You want to say something about that? Forgiveness is, in a way, bringing an end to something so you can start something new.
Yeah. You got to let it go, right? I mean, it sounds so easy, just 3 words, let it go.
It's hard, though.
It is hard. It is hard because we can even argue with God and say, well, do you know what they did to me?
Yeah.
He might respond by saying, yeah, I do.
They know what
Do you know what they did to me?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I read a story, Pastor Schaller, of a young girl who grew up with an abusive father. And she was just abused repeatedly over and over again because the marriage failed and she had to stay with her dad. And he was abusive until finally, I think she was maybe 13, 14 years old. He literally took her, he pushed her down a staircase, and he got to the door and he opened the door. He says, leave and never come back here again. And it left her, you can imagine, as a young person, devastated. But, God found her and God healed her and God loved her and her life was put back together and restored. Mm. And she sensed in her heart, God told her to go back and to forgive her father. So the day came where she decided she would do it. She knocked on his door. He came to the door, still angry, still bitter, and said, what do you want? And she said, I just want you to know that I forgive you. And he looked at her and he says, I don't want your forgiveness. And she said to him, she said, well, I hoped you would receive it, but I'm doing it not just for you. I'm doing it for myself because I don't want to let what you did hurt me for the rest of my life. Mm. And, it did not penetrate his heart, at least at that time, but she walked away and she said she was set free. She was liberated in her heart because she knew she had to do that. Or otherwise, even though far away from him, he would continue to hurt her if she didn't extend that forgiveness. Mm-hmm. It may be what we have to do in our own lives with those that have hurt us and wounded us and hurt us, even when they're that close to us.
I've heard similar stories. One was a Jewish Holocaust victim who had survived the Holocaust, came to New York, and he said, I had to decide to forgive Hitler for what he did. I mean, that's a tall order. But he said, I had to because I couldn't bring Hitler here into my new life. I had to deal with that and move on, I had to forgive. So that's an interesting, that's, all of us have to process that and think, is that correct or not, You can hate and hate and hate, and the person you hate is living with you every day.
Yeah.
That's right. You have that person over your shoulder every day because you have hatred in your heart and unforgiveness toward them. But if you forgive, it's over and it's done, and you can go on with your life. Yeah.
And when God puts it on your heart to initiate that forgiveness, it's so beneficial. And maybe there will be times when it's not even received and not even welcomed, but we do it anyhow because it's in our DNA. Now it's part of our new nature, and we what's the option? The other option is, without forgiveness, we're going to grab somebody by the throat.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to say, you know what? You're going to pay me what you owe me. But, that might never happen.
Yeah.
We may never find, satisfaction seeking that kind of justice. But mercy has a way of celebrating and triumphing over judgment, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way to go. It's the only way to live life.
Yeah.
We've received grace. We learn to give it. We become channels of
Even
grace.
when you might not ever see the reciprocal part, when Jesus died, he said to the whole world, to the Father, he said, forgive them, like the whole world that's crucifying him, for they don't know what they do.
Yeah.
There's an ignorance, a juvenile mentality, drug taking, liberal-oriented, excuse-based motivation. I mean, there's so many terrible mindsets that we run into in life where, you're to blame, and they crucify you and you say, like, forgive them. I don't know who they are. I don't know what's, I mean, I'm embellishing the point, but I mean, I'm not pointing to one person, but forgive them. Roman emperor, Roman soldiers, Roman proconsul, the population crying out, crucify, crucify. They don't know what they're doing, and forgive them. So there's a unconditional, universal kind of forgiveness toward everyone, because a lot of times, if not always, people don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, so true. If God marked our iniquity, we would.
Who would stand?
No one.
Yeah.
And then the next part of that verse in Psalm 130 says, but there is forgiveness with you, that you may be trusted.
Mm.
So as we wrap up our podcast today, it's what a blessing it is to think that there is forgiveness with God, which gives all of us hope. Well, friends, thanks for joining us for the Thursday edition of the Grace Hour. We'll be back for one more podcast coming up tomorrow on the Friday edition of the Grace Hour. We hope you'll tune in then. We'll wrap up this subject this week, focus on the parables of Jesus. Thanks for joining us. God bless you until tomorrow at the same time.